Listen, I am so glad that you guys are joining in. This is a much needed conversation. And my guest Kira is working on her Wi-Fi situation, trying to get that up and going. And then when she gets on the camera, I'm going to flip the orientation to make sure that both of us could be seen. But this is a conversation that we need to have in our community, and it's an unpopular opinion. And it's about how in the Black community we have to stop kicking our kids out before, like, right when they're 18 or before they're 18. Like, we have to do better. So I some that we just need to talk about, because financially we have noticed that there's a lot of children that end up coming back home because they're unable to afford society because it's so expensive. You know what I mean? It's so expensive. And what is a child to do? You know what I mean? So a lot of people actually just come back home. They stay home. And then the problem with that is that parents want to charge an arm and a leg for rent. And it's like, how can I elevate in life if I'm paying half of your rent? How could I level up? So I'm gonna go ahead and get started while she's configuring her Wi-Fi and get in to jump back on. But let me tell y'all something. We encourage our children to get a job and to be in the workforce and all of those things. As soon as they get to the legal age, our kids are excited. They want to go bag groceries at Publix. As a teacher, I had kids who literally was ready. You know what I mean? All right, so she's back on. Let me add. It's all right. All right, add you on here. Boom. All right. All right, so now we got our Wi-Fi together, and we,
Yes.
we all on here live. All right. So my name is Bianca Goolsby. I'm the education activist and an advocate. And so I am the founder of Teaching for the Culture, which is basically a program that is designed to address the gaps in equity in education. And I have a special guest here who actually sparked this entire conversation on the Facebook post. So I want to turn it over to her so she can introduce herself and what does she do.
Hello, everybody. My name is Kira Johnson. I am an educator, mentor, and author. I am a high school English teacher by day, and I also run a nonprofit organization called Elevated Minds. And the reason for the post is kind of like the whole driving force behind my nonprofit, because it's all about getting kids ready for life. You know,
Mhm.
I don't believe in pushing kids into college just for the sake of a degree, because in the climate that we live in now, a degree doesn't automatically guarantee success.
Right.
So basically, I teach them financial literacy, conflict resolution, interviewing skills, and teach them to get a skill, a trade, or a license. That way, if they do decide to go to college, they can actually take care of themselves, and not be that broke college kid that we always heard about.
Right, right. And so I just am so thankful for what you do, because we need to talk about financial literacy. We need to talk about how and to secure the bag, and not only how to secure the bag, but also how to maintain the bag. And I think
Yes.
that's the problem, is the maintaining the bag, because once you get the bag, you want to spend it. And they
Mm.
call Black people liquid gold. That's what they call Black people, because of how quick we are spending money on things that we
Mhm.
really don't need. So just kind of give everyone a overview of your post and what your post
Mhm.
said.
So what it basically said was, there was this trending topic a couple of months ago called unpopular opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and basically people would spread these unpopular opinions that's not like an idea from the masses. And so it
Mm-hmm.
says, unpopular opinion: Black people, stop kicking your kids out at 18.
Stop
And
kicking them out. Stop kicking them
um,
out. So listen, we got
okay,
a
I see a
comment,
comment. Yeah.
and I'm so thankful for people saying I want my children to stay. I want my children to stay at home. What happens is that we want to move our kids out. They have a job, and then all right, 18. All right, good luck. You got this. And then
Or give me some money on the this, that, or the third. And it's like, come on now, I'm just starting to make, I don't even know how to save money. and you're already trying to put me in the bills, in debt.
in debt, in debt. And so we have to talk about wealth, and we have to talk about financial literacy and how
Hmm.
it is negatively impacting the Black community as a whole. So I'm a researcher. I like to read, and I like to look at data, and I like to look at stats. And
Yes.
so one of the statistics, I was blown away. So the US Department of Agriculture actually did a study in 2018 and actually
Hmm.
said that the cost of raising a child was over $200,000, and that was excluding the cost of college.
And I bet that's one child because I have three. And let me tell you, I think yeah, I bet that's the cost of raising one child.
One
It,
child.
it's that number is just like astonishing.
Yes. 200,000. So now I can understand.
That's the push though. That's the push. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm barely making it above water. I'm working maybe two or three jobs. You have to go or you have to contribute something. And
Yeah.
I get where the parents are coming from, and so this is in no way like a um this is not a parent bashing type thing. If you have,
Absolutely not. Yeah.
asked your kids to move out at 18, this is not us attacking you. What we're saying is realistically, 18 is not ready. No
Right.
one, I don't know anyone at 18 that has the type of income that it takes to cover rent, food, gas, insurance, utilities. Like, come on now.
So
I'm a teacher, and this is the first job I've had where I was able to really adequately cover those things by myself.
yeah, and it's like in that takes being a teacher requires a college degree, so much loopholes, testing, all of this stuff that you
Hmm.
have to do in order to be a teacher. Now I really like this comment, and it was like, what about moving out and leaving them the house? My daughter is working, is about to graduate. I like leaving people the house. That's assets. The problem
Hmm.
that I have is that, we work so hard, like our parents work so hard, and then all of a sudden, like, their legacy is gone because no one has their stuff together. And so
Right.
this is why, like, the gentrification and all this stuff is happening, because we don't have enough wealth to sustain property. So therefore, this is why this is happening. And then, like,
And then
I,
I gotta stop you there because it's not that we don't have enough wealth; it's that we are mismanaging what we
I
do
like
have.
I like the way you said that. Yes.
Because it's not like it. You have to be a millionaire to be able to have a decent living. But if you're out here, and I mean, I'm just gonna have to offend some people. But if you're out here buying Beyonce and Jay-Z tickets, if you're out here buying Jordans every Saturday, if you add that up over the years, you could have bought a house. You could
Yep.
have, invested. You could have done. You could have started a business.
Yep.
And it doesn't take much to start a business as much. I mean, even though that's a kind of a misconception that it takes all this work and all this time and all this money to start a business, but it really doesn't.
Yeah.
So, we have the buying power. And so that's why I hate when people say we don't have the wealth. We have it, we just not keeping
Yeah. We're
it.
we in our so when I say like the wealth, it's the
Hmm.
mindset, it's that poverty mindset
Yep.
that we are misallocating our funds, and so what I call is a misallocation of funds. And so it's one of those things where we have to kind of prioritize what our priorities, and that means we first have to stop and think about what are our priorities. And if
Right.
your priorities is buying stuff that is not going to give you any money back or return on your investment,
Hmm.
what, like, it's
Exactly.
a lot. It's a lot to it. So I did some research, and I was looking at a wealth management advisor. And
Hmm.
they were basically saying that if parents are going to charge rent, that it needs to be below market value. So
Of course.
and I agree with that. My problem is that when I was teaching, I had students ask me what's the best way that they can make money online so that they can help their parents pay the bills. They're
Hmm.
13, 14, 15 years old. Why is the priority for them to start working instead of focusing on school?
It shouldn't be. It definitely shouldn't be their priority because At 14 and 15 years old, you should be thinking about what sports you're about to play, or what, maybe even thinking about what you want to do when you grow up. But I don't think bills should be at the forefront of a 14-year-old's mind. And I don't know, maybe that's just me.
Yeah, and then what even gets me, and it's even more upsetting, is that adults actually place children in harm's way just for them to pay their share.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens, folks. Like, there are literally parents that, I'm gonna just say it, that are literally pimping their kids and are having their kids pay their share by doing things that invoke trauma in them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's something that we have to stop. We can't continue in 2020 doing this and thinking that we are going to be sustainable, because I just see all of this trauma, this compounded trauma. And what, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is that we don't talk about it, and I know people like to think that talking is just like passive, but honestly, we need to talk about these things. We're not even teaching them about money, but we're telling them they got to pay bills.
Yes.
We're not even teaching them, about saving, but we're telling them they got to pay bills. Like, come on.
Yeah.
So when are they ever going to be able to get out of your house if you want them out? And then when we kick them into college, we're kicking them into a situation where it's like sink or swim. That's like they have this theory about throwing babies into the pool. I don't know if I believe into that, but anyway, it's kind of like that same concept, because if they can't swim, which if they can't, you know, have the life skills that they need to be able to sustain themselves as an adult, then they're gonna end up back, or they're gonna be out there doing something that we don't want them to do, getting into trouble,
Right.
getting into fights or worse, because they're just trying to hold their own because they can't come back home because you said they had to go to college.
Right. And it's that, and that's that shame that we have in the community too, where if you move back home, oh, it's a bad thing. And so that's why people feel so shame when they go back home, um or just feel like I won't go back home, period, and have that mindset, like, you that support needs to be there, you know what I mean? And
Exactly.
there was a post that I saw on Facebook, besides yours, and it was
Mhm.
basically this girl. She graduated from high school a couple years ago, and she got her first job. And on her job, she was making $7 an hour, and her mom told her that she needed to pay $200 a month. And she determined that she could not stay at her mama's house and save the way that she wanted to, so she ended up having to find another solution. You know what I mean?
Mm. And that's tragic because, and I got a lot of flack on this post by other races, um basically talking about, oh, that's an American thing. They got to make it a generalized thing, but if you're not in the black community, you don't know how prevalent it is. And I just think about my girlfriend. She used to date this guy. He was a white guy, and he was like 28, and he lived at home. But I guess they went out to eat or something, and he went to an ATM. Look at his receipt. He has over $50,000 saved in his account,
Yeah.
and that's why he stays at home. He's never left.
Yeah.
He's always stayed there and stacked up. And a Spanish guy or a Latina guy came on my post, and he said that in the Latina community they usually leave when they get married. And in my head,
Hmm.
when somebody is thinking that far ahead, I'm thinking that they're mature enough to be able to balance a checkbook and handle
Exactly.
a
Hmm.
household. But there is, I don't want to call it a stereotype because I've seen it, but I don't know if it's all of the Latina community. But I've seen them living six to a house and sending money home, and stack, and every time somebody moves out, they're moving into a house that they're buying.
Yeah.
And if you've ever lived in Georgia and you've been in the Norcross area, that community is basically affluent Hispanic people.
Hmm.
And so in my head, I imagine that that's what those are the type of community that they move off into once they move out um, of the co-living situation. But I just think that's so smart because you don't understand how much you can save if you just
Right.
bite the bullet and get a roommate, or live with family and maybe take on one bill or two bills
Mm-hmm.
versus, I mean, I don't know anybody that can honestly live with all of the things that we talk about, like rent and utilities and insurance and a car and gas. I don't see that happening for less than what I want to say about $1,500 a month,
Yeah.
and that's on the low end. I live in New Orleans, Louisiana, and it's bad here because of gentrification in the metro New Orleans area.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot get a house for less than $1,200 a month.
Wow.
Like you have to move into the outskirts cities to be able to find something that's affordable. So I just don't understand, and I understand you go get the student loans, you stay in a dorm,
Yep.
but that's only so long you can keep that up.
Yep. And it with getting the student loans, I mean, people say, "Oh, I can live off student loans," but you living off debt. You're living off debt, and that's a mindset that we have to shift. That when we go to college and we take these student loans, that this is not your money. It's these people's money.
I like the way you said that this is not your money.
It is not your money. And y'all and they live on debt. And then there are some people that go to college and they want to move out of the house so bad that they actually go purchase a dorm to go live
Mm,
on campus, but they can actually drive to school. And I feel like that's a misallocation of funds.
mm,
Just take your behind to campus, take your behind home, and then
mm.
the money that you would have paid in, the dorm expenses, you could stack that up, put that into an account, invest it, and make way more than you just giving them the money because you don't want to live at home.
And see, you said something very, very key. You said to invest. Now, if you're gonna take out debt, and this is what they teach you in the money world when you learn about credit and things like that. If you're gonna invest, you're gonna invest in something that's gonna make you more money. You don't want to take that money and buy a liability.
Yes.
Think about the money that person would have spent living on campus. Think about them taking that and just investing into something as simple as a cleaning business.
Yep. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that's the whole idea I'm trying to, push to young adults, because it's very, very hard to teach adults who's been struggling all their lives to want to start a business. It's too
Right.
much of a risk for them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But if you're in college and you're in a situation where you're comfortable, like, always be thinking about the fact that in a few years you're not going to be comfortable.
Right.
And I know for me, I had a very, very untraditional college life. I got married at 18.
Mm-hmm.
My first semester in college, I had my first child.
Mm-hmm.
So, I lived around the college. It was different for me. I
Mm-hmm.
had to live, in an apartment because of the fact that I had a family.
Mm-hmm.
And in my own situation, I wasn't necessarily kicked out. I'm gonna be honest. I left. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be grown. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying? I wasn't even 18 yet. I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
But I had graduated from high school. I had a job. I had a boyfriend, and I thought I was grown. Let's just be real.
Yep.
I mean, I was 17 before. We've all been 17 before.
We've all been there.
So I
Mm-hmm.
get the idea, but you're supposed to kind of be the one to be like, hey, I understand that you're grown. I understand that you have, a situation, but why would you, realistically, why would you move out and try to sustain on minimum wage with a child?
Right. Right.
So,
My
and
ooh,
this is me learning this in retrospect, in hindsight. At
yeah.
that time, I just felt like I was grown,
Yep.
but I know a lot of people who had to leave at 18,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they dropped out of high school.
Yep.
Oh, you're not gonna go to school?
Now I gonna go to
Are you
school,
gonna go
get
to
out my house
school?
then.
Are you gonna go to work? Are
Yep.
you gonna get out?
Yep.
That's the norm. And
And
the
then
sad
they would
truth
tell
is,
their children,
hmm
that, if a man don't work, they don't eat. But then want a child to stay in a child's place.
come on now. Now, which one you want me to be?
Yep.
So,
So my point in this is that other communities live together. They go to college. They make mistakes. They fall
hmm
down, get back up on their feet with the help of their parents, right? And I
that's
was fortunate enough to have a father that when I fell down, he was able to pick me up. And when I
mm,
had to transition from point A to point B, he extended his home to me so that I can be comfortable, so I can transition from place to place. And
Right.
but not everyone has that opportunity. But
Mm-hmm.
my point is that what I'm sad about is that children are shamed when they are unable to contribute, as if children are viewed as a liability.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being shamed for not being a financial asset to them. But at the same time, you brought them into this earth. Now we know that a children costs $200,000. We need to talk about, can we afford the children that we create? And why
And
should
that's a whole nother can of worms right there, because honestly, and I just told somebody this the other day. I was like, I love my children, I love my husband, but if I could do it over, my kids would just be younger.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only thing, because it was like, you know, I never wanted to believe that notion that kids slow you down, but they do. Because the truth is, once you have a child, and I don't care how old you are, your life and your needs stop. That child comes first.
Yep.
And so, it was a lot of things that I could have done that I couldn't do because I was having a child. For
Mm-hmm.
instance, I got accepted to Spelman, full ride. I don't know anybody in Atlanta, and I'm having a child.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go to school locally, and not any shade on that. I love my college experience. I still went to an HBCU. I
Mm-hmm.
still learned tremendously, and I still earned my degree. But it was a lot of things that I missed out on because I had to look out for my kids.
Yep. And so I guess the point is, here is just, at some point, Black community, we have to look at how we are allocating our finances. We have to think about community, and we have to think about what's going to be in the best interest to elevate everyone,
Hmm.
not just yourself and what you need right now. But it just really broke my heart just witnessing children that are in middle school asking me ways that they can secure the bag, because that is what is an expectation for them at home, when the focus
That.
should be school.
Hmm. Hmm.
In a good
But then you look at it from the other side too, and you realize how the cycle is gonna always continue. Because as a 14-year-old kid, you know, I'm watching my mama struggle, and I'm looking at, like, I'm an able-bodied American, so I can be out here helping,
Mm-hmm.
but that help turns into an obligation, and now I go off and pursue my dreams. What my mama gonna do? And then we stay
Yep.
stuck in that same cycle, and it goes
You
on
stay
and on
stuck.
and on.
There was a boy that posted on Facebook. He said that he was so scared to go off to college because he would be going out of state full ride, because he wanted to make sure that his mama was good. And his mama had told him that she would prefer him not to leave, so that way he could help her out with the kids and the bills.
That's not living. The thing, you have to let kids take their own path, even if you completely disagree with it, even if it's not what you raised them up to be. Like, children are a gift, but they're not our property. We don't own them, we don't control them, and we can't mold them. I hear people talk about all the
Right.
time, well, if you have a better household, and another person came under this same post, and like way left field, he said, well, studies show that kids grow up better in a double parent household. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about. It
Right.
has nothing to do with what we're talking about. So it's just like, we have to fix our issues, because when people try to come from the outside, they're not coming from a genuine place because they
Right.
can't. Not because they're being malicious, but you can't come from a genuine place when you don't really know.
Right. Yep. And
But
you
we
don't,
have
you
to
don't
we have
understand.
to really we have to really break this cycle. And we gotta go to counseling. We need to go to therapy. We need to talk about this trauma, work through this trauma, and bring something positive out of it.
Yes. The shift starts now, folks. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over and think that we're going to continue to sustain, because there's a decline every single year. There's a decline, and there's money out there. We have money, and there are ways to achieve the money. But the problem is when you secure the bag, we don't know how to maintain the bag. And then we are putting burden on children because of lack of financial planning. So you having a child and you lacking for the cost of the child should not be the burden of the child.
Exactly.
That's not the child's fault. You know what I mean? So we keep kicking kids out at 18. Statistically, we talked about it. They're not ready. They're not prepared. And there are some people that go off at 18 and they are prepared. And bravo to them. And you know that and they live their truth. I get that. But statistically, 18-year-olds in this climate that we have, they just can't do it. And then we force our children to go to college, but then there's no jobs on the other end. So now we have degreed people who have their master's degree, who has all these type of degrees that are making less than 40,000 a year.
Exactly. And it's the thing I always tell people, especially my mentees in my program, I tell them, I just did what everybody said I should do. I went to college because that was gonna guarantee me a secure job. And when I moved to Atlanta, freshly graduated from college, bright eyed and bushy tailed, I realized I was competing with 15 million other people with degrees.
Yep.
It probably wasn't that much then, but I heard when I left, it was about 15 million people. Excuse me. Hold on. All right. Sorry about that.
Yeah, all
Sorry
right.
about that Facebook Live. But yeah, I was I was I apologize, y'all. She's throwing me off my track. I forgot what I was saying. um, but yeah, I went to Atlanta and I was competing against all these people who had degrees. Matter of fact, they had advanced degrees. So I thought I was fancy having 2 bachelors, but they got masters and doctorates. How can I compete with that? And then if my qualifications were the same, maybe they have a fraternity or a sorority, and that's big too in the job market. We don't talk about that, but you
Mm,
know that there's favoritism there too, and that's just the facts.
yep.
So I found it really really hard to compete. I tell people I would have really known if I could have looked in the future and seen what would happen after I graduated from college. I would have gotten a trade and a skill as well, because I'm a nerd by heart. I
Yeah.
love to learn. I love reading and things like that, researching. So I think I still would have went to college, but imagine me doing something maybe like real estate while I was in college and not having to take those student loans,
Right.
and building something that I could save for my family.
Mm-hmm.
Because I got out of college like, I need a job, I need a job, I need a job.
Yep.
And my first job was a job that didn't even require a degree.
Yep.
So, I really, my goal is to teach as many kids as possible, because let's be real. We're having this conversation. I think it's awesome. And I think a lot of people are going to, take an initiative to look at it in a different light. But there are still going to be those old school parents that are going to be like, go to school, get a job, or get out. And so that's why I'm big on teaching kids life skills. Like, let's get them ready. Maybe they're not ready at 18, but if we're teaching them maybe from 15, 16, 12,
Yeah.
then at 18, maybe they will be ready.
Yeah.
So,
But
yeah.
it's time. We need to talk about money. We need to talk about financial planning.
Mm-hmm.
And the lack of financial planning should not be on the burden of your children. And so we got to stop kicking kids out when they're 18 if they're not ready. And if they're ready, then awesome. But if they're not ready, with statistics show that most of them are not ready now in this climate, we have to do better, which means that we have to pull together. And if you are going to allow your child to stay home, make sure that the rent is decent. Don't have them be paying half your rent. You know what I mean? How
Right.
can they function? You know, how can they elevate in life? How can they do their dream if they're paying half of your rent that you would have paid regardless, because you are the financial, you're the primary, so you would have had to pay it. So the problem is that when a child works, there's a notion that, oh, that child's income is in my income too, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not the case. We have to change it, and that's a mindset.
And see, I think behind what you just said, there's this unspoken truth that with that we inadvertently hold our kids back because they
Mhm.
feel this overwhelming obligation to help us, and
Mhm.
they're not even thinking about what they want to do for themselves.
Yeah. So and that's because when they had a child, they wasn't ready. So compounded trauma,
Mm-hmm.
hurt people, and
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, we have to learn how to be better humans. And in order to do that, we have to have tough conversations that make people uncomfortable, and for people not to be in their feelings when we are talking about something that impacts our community. So before we close, do you have any final things you want to share with the people?
Listen, it is never, ever, ever too late to learn. Like we need to educate ourselves. We got to get smart about money. We got to get smart about business, because that's the climate we're in right now. Everything is about business, small business, startups. E-commerce is killing it. Can you imagine 20 years ago being able to sit at your house and make money while
Right.
not even trying? Like I tell my students all the time, I teach 11 and 12 graders, and one of my favorite slogans is, "I'm getting you ready for life." And in the real world, you gotta be business savvy no matter what it is that you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Educate yourself so that you can never be taken advantage of. Educate yourself so that you can leave something for your kids other than debt. One
Yes.
of my goals is to leave a house for each of my kids. I have 3 kids. I want to leave them each a house, and if not each a house, a piece of land where they could all build a house.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to put it in, writing that this house can't be sold. It can't be taken in anything, because we don't pass generational wealth down. And I think that's our biggest issue in our
Yes.
community. We don't even think about tomorrow, let alone, my grandkids.
Mm-hmm.
So educate yourselves, guys. That's all I can say.
I love it. So with that, I just want to end you guys with this. I love y'all, and it's one of those things that we're going to continue to have tough conversations because we teaching for the culture. This is what it's all about: is educating and changing our mindset on some of the things that have been holding us back for years. And when we talk about kicking kids out at 18 and they're not ready, well, are they going to be productive citizens, or are they going to end up in the street, or are they going to end up incarcerated? um
Mm,
these are things that are happening in our community over and over and over and over and over. At some point, the shift has to happen. So I'm
mm,
calling for it to happen now because we can't continue with the way that the politics are operating, the way that the banks are operating. We can't continue to operate this way and think that something fruitful is going to come out of it. And I'm just so
mm,
thankful for our ancestors that fought for equity and that fought for us being able to have access. And we need to have access, and we also need to be educated with that access on how to use it appropriately.
exactly.
So with that, I'm going to close out, and I want to thank you again for joining me on this conversation.
Prob-
It's much needed. I'm going to make sure I share it everywhere. People can read it, get the facts, but we got to do better, community, and change starts with you. And so teaching for the culture, this is what this is all about, and we're a community. So I love y'all.
Alrighty. Peace,
All right.
guys.
Peace.